My friends, today we're doing what I hope will be the worst, most critical review ever of Hex, PulseX, and PulseChain. And what'll make this special is we're going to do it in a way that's respectful. No name calling, no just putting people down. But let's actually get in and analyze this from a bigger perspective. I hope you can watch this before you buy any Hex or PulseX or PulseChain. And if not, I hope this can give you a good perspective on it. And I want to thank Michael Suppo with Suppo Man. You're a superhero for crypto for suggesting, based on what I've been talking about, that I do this video. You're going to want to watch this video if you have any interest in Hex or PulseX or PulseChain, because there's so much positive media out there about how great it is. And then there's just this negative kind of blind critique of it's a scam, it sucks. And I want to know, let's really dive into this. And the point of view I want to dive into this from is this something, to me, if you're going to invest in a cryptocurrency, it needs to be something that is truly better than the fiat currencies we already have that governments print. And it needs to have a serious chance at being adopted globally. And my question is PulseX and PulseChain and Hex, are these good for the nearly 8 billion people we have in the world? If all 8 billion people in the world used this, would it be good for them? That means we're going to look at Hex and Pulse from the point of view of, is it fair? Fairness in crypto is very important because what we've got right now is gross income inequality. Look at this graph on Wikipedia. The majority of the countries in the world, you got US, Australia, and a few others that make more than 60,000 per GDP nominal per capita. And then you've got some countries that are so poor, it's hard to believe. People are starving to death. Tens of thousands of people are starving to death every day. Meanwhile, other people have so much money, it's a problem. So let's look at Hex through that point of view. Let's see how it actually is generating these returns. And let's consider whether this is worth your time or energy. And same thing with PulseChain and PulseX. So to begin, let's look at Hex, because Hex is, I've seen so many Hex flexes, and you look at the Hex website, and at first it starts to look really good. Like Hex stakes average 38% returns a year. So you're telling me if I put 1,000, where's my keyboard? I'm doing this live too, to just have a real chat and talk with people and have a valuable discussion. So I'm answering viewer questions. So you're telling me if I put $1,000 into Hex and times that by 1.38. So next year I'm going to have 1,300. The year after that, 1,900. 3 years, 2,600. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're saying I put $1,000 into a Hex stake and stake it for like 10 years and I'm going to have $25,000 in 10 years? What's up, Gabriel? Thanks for watching on Facebook. That looks a little ridiculous. And let's analyze, where do these returns actually come from? How are these 38% returns being generated? And look at the webpage. We have the founder of Hex celebrating owning the biggest diamond in the world. Is this something that all people on Earth would really appreciate and benefit from? Is this good for them? I think it's important we consider not just how am I going to make a profit for myself and my friends and my family, but when we're investing, we consider how is this going to benefit the greater world? Is this going to be good for all people on planet Earth, or is it just going to make me and my friends rich? Let's scroll down and look a little bit. The Hex price went up 9,481 times so far. That's great. The Bitcoin prices went up quite a bit too. The current price is 3 cents. And the market cap's 20 billion, according to this website. It says there's 4,671, whatever, you can see it. And 96,000 stakers. So let me do a little bit of math here. 6 holders divided, I think I need to inverse this, but All right, whatever. Yeah, let me inverse that. So 20% of holders are staking. 20% of holders are staking. Utah says Hex is another Ponzi scheme. Michael says you should go live. You should go live with Richard Hart. If he wants to go live with me, I'll be happy to go live with him. You ran into a commercial before entering. Yes, this one's monetized. So 20% of Hex holders are staking, and 80% are not. Now let's think about that for a second. Now, where do you make money on Hex? It says Hex is special. It is special. Hex's inflation is capped at 3.69%. And it pays 38% on average. Well, that seems a little too good to be true, doesn't it? Or a little too good to be productive for the rest. Now, let's look at how this worked out. So 3.69 inflation doesn't sound too bad. Until you consider Bitcoin inflates at like 0.18 or something percent a year. So compared to Bitcoin, this inflates 20 times as much as Bitcoin. 20 times as much as Bitcoin. That means with inflation, this is a problem a lot of us are not aware of, but I hope we can get... Inflation means there's more money being printed. And if inflation is distributed to everyone equally, that's not too big of a problem unless you don't have any money. In which case, or if you just have a little bit. Because then everybody who has more money is getting even richer than you. And meanwhile, you're falling behind. Well, if it was all distributed fairly across the whole network, that might be okay. But how exactly does this work? Well, the way I see that this works is you have to stake your Hex to get a piece of inflation. Think about this. You have to stake your Hex to get a piece of inflation. That means 80% of people are not getting any inflation on Hex. And this is why it pays 30% APY on average. Because the majority of people who are not staked are getting zero. So that means only 20% of people are getting all of the inflation. So let's multiply that inflation by 5. So 3.69 times 5. So that means 20% of people are getting 18% interest just from inflation. This is all rough math. But then where's the rest of that coming from? The rest of that is coming from people who are losing their shares to stake it. You have to promise to... You burn your Hex and leave it in... You burn it. And then promise to keep it in for a certain amount of time. So that means this inflation is going to just these people. And out of all these holders, just these people are actually getting the interest. And these people are getting the penalties as well. Which means 80% of people are getting nothing, while 20% of people are getting massive rewards. However, not all the 20% of people are getting equal rewards, because the longer you stake, the more you get, and then you have to pay fees every time you stake also. So is this something that the majority of these people could really participate in? And this is going to lead us into PulseX and PulseChain. Can the people in the majority of the world pay all of the gas fees that are necessary just to stake this? No, the majority of people in the world would barely be able to get a hold of any. So let's assume that this was a global currency, and let's assume PulseX solves the problem of fees. You've still got a system where 20% of the people get all of the new Hex created. That means 80% of people, if you look at the inflation rate, the overall inflation, let's say there's, I don't know, we'll make up like 1 million total. I could put bigger numbers in, but for simplicity, what I'm doing right now, so this is, let's say you start off with 1 million Hex, for example. And after year 1, there's now 1.03, year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So after 10 years, there's almost 50% more Hex than there was before. However, only 20% of people got access to that 50% that was created. So if you are not one of those 20% of people who staked it, basically people have to buy all of that 50% just for the price to stay the same. So a small percentage of people get rich, while the majority at best stay the same and realistically lose. That is not better than fiat. That's exactly what we have with the fiat system. If you're a billionaire, you can pay to change the rules. You can pay to get the government to do what you want to. You can make sure the new money that's printed comes into your hands. And that's why that such a small percentage of people control such a large amount of the wealth in the world. And that's why you've got so many of these countries that are dirt poor. People are starving to death and barely have any standard of living. Hex is exactly like fiat currency. A very small amount of people get all the rewards and the majority lose. I say 99% chance this fails completely and goes to zero, especially Hex on Ethereum when you've got PulseX and PulseChain launching. I'd say 99% chance the bottom completely falls out of this and it goes to zero. Julian says Hex is king. And Michael brings up a good question and says, you made a lot of money with Dash. Why hate on Hex or PulseChain? I think it's important we have solid critical feedback of everything because it's too easy when you've already bought Hex and staked it, especially if you're a crypto YouTuber, you've got an incentive to get more people to buy it because those people that buy it are pumping your bag up. And the reason it's went up so much is because of all the people who've bought it. But when people stop buying this and see that, 20% of people get all of the new Hex, and not even that. But this is made for advanced users who know what they're doing and who've got lots of money, who can afford to set up different stakes and constantly cash out. The average person who might want to just buy a little bit and stake it is totally screwed because of the fees. And if you don't do your stake properly, you can actually lose almost all of it. And that's a big problem. That's not something that it would be useful for the 8 billion people on Earth. And here's what makes Hex even more problematic. Once the PulseChain and PulseX, once those get fully launched and operational, the way I see it, there's a big incentive. Whoever cashes out, whichever whale with a huge wallet cashes out of this first, can tank the market hard for everybody else. Somebody who's locked up and gets a big stake that comes through and sells it. I have a friend who's way into Hex and has made a lot of money off it. He says it'd be really easy to crash the price for this thing. And the whales know it. And they don't want to do it. Well, it's just going to take one person. It'll just take one person to do that. It'll only take one person to do that. And it'll all go downhill. And that's what I see is going to happen. Especially after this launches on PulseChain. So my review of this is just as bad as fiat currency. This is just as bad as the US government printing hordes of US dollars. And I'm talking about this because when I got into Dash and I got into Steam, I wish I'd have watched a video that was extremely critical of Dash and extremely critical of Steam before I put $10,000, $11,000 into Dash, before I told people how great it was, and then I cashed out after I made 70-something thousand on it, and the price of Dash today is less than it was 5 years ago. That's not good for the majority of people. And I made that money because other people bought in after me. And then I did the same thing again with Steam. And that's why today, see, we need very critical reviews of every altcoin. We need very critical reviews to look at it and say, this was created under the pretext to make a better Bitcoin. To make something better than Bitcoin. This is not better than Bitcoin. This is far worse than Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin, anyone in the world can grab some Bitcoin and hold on to it. And because the inflation rate is so low, you have a chance that just holding on to your Bitcoin, it will be much more valuable in the future. And that's something that's globally accessible. This is a distraction from Bitcoin, which has much better fundamentals and is much more appropriate for the whole world. So we've looked at the key thing in Hex. The key thing in Hex is that the majority of people are left out of all the new Hex that's created. And out of the people that stake, probably the majority of stakers will pay penalties, and a small minority of stakers will get rich and earn huge amounts of money off this, which is why it's absolutely, I say 99% chance this goes totally to zero. And it's been around long enough where it hasn't fallen apart yet. Give this 5 years and I'm interested to see where it is. Now, let's look at, so the founder of Hex said to lower transaction gas fees, Richard Hart is building a new Ethereum fork called PulseChain. Well, that sounds good at first when you think of it, right? What's up, Dakota? Kyle, nice to see you here on Facebook. So at first, that sounds nice. What's up, James? Nice to see you today. And Michael says you can buy Hex today and make 100x. Well, how would I make that 100x? By a bunch of other people buying it? And if I didn't stake it, other people would be making even more. The only way I can make 100x is if a bunch more people buy into it, and those people are going to lose. And this is why we got to stop thinking of how do I make money, which I've very much been thinking of. I even helped pump recently a better than Hex startup. I made tens of thousands of dollars off it, and it left me to question everything. Like, seriously? I'm promoting something that I don't believe in myself just because it's making me money, and that's what got me to get to a place where we need to think about which blockchain is best for all people, not just for ourselves to make money. So if we look at Hex, this seems clear. This is not a blockchain where most people win. This is it's on the Ethereum blockchain too. So the Ethereum gas fees are miserable. There's been a ton of money spent just on gas fees to even get Hex. So Richard Hart says that he wants to build a new Ethereum fork called PulseChain so that you can really use Hex the way it was meant to be used. Now, the number one critique I have here is that do we have any shortage? Do we have any shortage of Ethereum clones and copies? Do we have any shortage of things that are supposed to be better than Ethereum? I mean, we got Binance. It's BNB. We gotta look at these. Look how many other blockchains are trying to be better than Ethereum. Do we need another blockchain that's trying to be better than Ethereum? Seriously. Or would it make more sense to help some of these other blockchains? I'm going to make an analogy here that will help make this very clear. So on the surface, it looks like, well, great. The founder looks at it, sees people are paying these high gas fees, and the founder wants to make a Ethereum fork called PulseChain where we can transact Hex and where we can have much lower fees and faster transaction times. This is not an exactly original idea. Let's look at this. EOS. This is a currency I was extremely critical of 5 years ago. It's ranked 47 now. This was launched as the Ethereum killer. Some people would call it Ethereum on steroids. This was launched that this is going to take down Ethereum. It's better than Ethereum. I said this is crap. Now let's look at it. Look at where it is today. Current price is $1. But more than that, much more than that, this currency, EOS, had a $4.3 billion ICO, which I left blistering criticism over. How dare you raise $4 billion from people when all you've got's an idea? This is a startup. And this is why you've got regulatory agencies like the SEC that go after Ripple, for example, because these are securities. This has almost no real value when it was launched. And $4.3 billion ICO. Look at the entire market cap of this today. Where did it go? The whole market cap of this today is less than $1 billion. This was huge 5-6 years ago. 5 years ago, whatever it was. This was huge. the $4.3 billion ICO, the total value of all of it in circulation is less than $1 billion today. That means if you put into this ICO, you effectively lost more than 75%. Like, people collectively lost 75% of their investment 5 years later. Now, yes, it did pump up here, and I'm sure some people sold, but again, stop thinking of just one person making some money and start thinking, is this good for all of us? And PulseChain, to me, reminds me exactly of EOS. It's launched with all this hype from a founder that people worship, and it raises a massive amount of money for itself, and it has almost no value. Here's something, the last thing we'll talk about EOS here. The company that did the EOS ICO has 140,000 Bitcoin. Y'all need me to show you how much that is? 140,000. That's according to this a year ago. You never know what is exactly trustworthy or not, but I saw it somewhere else. So that's $3 billion of Bitcoin. To me, this looks like a scheme to get people to build up your Bitcoin library. Or to build up your Bitcoin holdings. To me, people put billions of dollars into this so that the company who did the ICO could be one of the largest Bitcoin holders in the world. People got totally screwed on this, at least so far. And I see the exact same fundamentals for PulseChain. Exact same fundamentals. It's hyped up, and this is, to me, the absolute thing you need to look at. So PulseChain on the sacrifice. Now, this is on the PulseChain website, the official PulseChain website. Now, there is not a working version of PulseChain that you can actually use to make real transactions. There's a test net, which means the money's worthless and they're just getting this figured out, and it's got delayed. Now, they raised over $1 billion for this and PulseX. And there's not even a working chain out. Now, look at this disclaimer. So this was done instead of an ICO to try and to get around the SEC. PulseChain and PulseX did sacrifices. A sacrifice is where you basically send your money to an address and you're just giving it up. You're sacrificing it. Like just driving down the window and throwing your money out the window, except, you know, Richard Hart's driving behind you and catching it. And then you're hoping you get sacrifice points, and sacrifice points are used to create the new blockchain. Look at this disclaimer. You are sacrificing to prove how strong you believe that you are sacrificing to prove how strong you... Shouldn't it say how strongly? Can we get this disclaimer? Did somebody edit this? You are sacrificing to prove how strong you believe that blockchains are speech. Huh? And speech is a protected human right. What does that have to do with giving this company $1 billion? This is an important political statement. No, this is a way to try and get around the SEC calling you a security. You must have no expectation of profit from the work from others. What? What? Okay. So you're telling me these people sacrificed $1 billion. And all that was sacrificed on PulseChain, which was a few hundred million. I can't be bothered to pull that other one up. You're telling me people sacrificed billions of dollars with no expectation of profit? Is this honest? Are we being serious right now? Look at this leaderboard. I know I'm throwing PulseX and PulseChain interchangeably, but PulseX is the decentralized exchange on PulseChain. And they're all kind of lumped in anyhow. You're telling me that somebody sent $40+ million because they believe blockchains are speech and speech is a protected human right. For real? You know what you can do? You can send me $40 million because you believe that Jerry Banfield, YouTube, and Facebook are free speech. You can do that. Or you know what would be better? Because I've already got plenty of money. I don't need any more. Why don't you send some of these people those billions of dollars? Because they'd like to know about blockchains being free speech when, there's tens of thousands of them dying every day because they can't buy enough food to feed themselves. And the ones that are surviving, especially in Africa and some of the other places that are just in desperate need of a fair financial system, they're barely able to get tiny kids getting fed at school, a tiny bowl of like that stuff you saw in the Matrix. A little protein, a little bit of like, let's try and not let you die today. You're telling me that $1 billion was sacrificed over how strong you believe that blockchains are free speech and is a protected human right? People sacrifice for $1 billion. You must have no expectation from the profit of work from others? I mean, this is a little bit more than just having trust in Richard Hart. I mean, this is insane. The set of people who have sacrificed to show their commitment to this political statement, it's not a political statement. It's a project you're hoping to make a profit off of. Like, can't we just be honest? It's not a political statement. It's a project you're looking to make a profit off. The sacrifice points are not meant to have any monetary value? Well, what? Why are you giving them out? Just take the money and don't even give anybody anything. The sacrifice points, this is seriously? They're not meant to have any monetary value. Really? Remember, you're not buying anything. The world is just noticing you are amongst a group of people that sacrifice to make a political statement. What? I mean, my kids would not go for this. Seriously? The only thing we know of what? Can this be written so I can read it? The only thing we know of set to be airdropped for free to this political group so far is PulseChain. So it just said you're sacrificing to make a point. There's no expectation of profit from work of others and not meant to have any monetary value, but we're going to give you some PulseChain when this whole thing settles, when all the dust clears. And here's another nice thing. So I ask, one of the main ways we need to evaluate cryptocurrencies is this better than fiat? Is this something that can make a positive difference for the world? Can we help all these countries that are disastrously broke? And can we help these 8 billion people? I rounded up 50 million. Can we help these 8 billion people have a better quality of life? And to do that, we need a fair currency. So let's look at the sacrifice leaderboard for PulseX. So somebody who sends in $48 million gets a 2.4+% multiplier. So that means they effectively sent in over $100 million. Meanwhile, the dude down here, or girl, that sent in $1.1 million only gets a 1.93 multiplier. How fair is that? So whoever sends these huge sacrifices in, who already can afford to blow tens of millions of dollars on a protected human right political statement. So you're saying the people who already have more money should get a multiplier for what they already sent. How fair is that? So the number one person up here is the number so big. What is this? We got millions, the top person gets 1 trillion sacrifice points. And if you go down here to the 100th person, they get 20 billion sacrifice points. Yeah, that looks like that does not look fair at all. So the more money you have, you're going to get a multiplier that's going to give you even more money. I mean, wouldn't you think it should be the opposite? If you send in $48 million, you should get a negative multiplier. Like, well, you've got so much money already. You should get less than somebody who sends. I realize that wouldn't work because people just send in a bunch of small transactions. But seriously? This is how fiat already works. Oh, Mr. Whoever, you've got this many $1 billion, good. You can just buy your way through the whole system, get the new money that's printed, and we'll keep going with this whole inequality thing. That sounds great. Look at all these cryptos now. Half of the sacrifice was Hex, which leads me to question the validity of it in the first place, because I saw another crypto that did a Hex copy. You know, this is a better than Hex sacrifice. And almost all the hex was almost all the sacrifice for that was done by people who basically got the token given to them for free or paid a very small price. And it looked on the headline like it sacrificed a lot, but it was all smoke and mirrors. There was very little actual money put into the sacrifice. And with 500 million hex, I mean, who sacrificed 500 million hex? I mean, I'm sure you could go through and audit it. You know, but who is this person? Who are these people right here that sacrificed this much? Did they essentially just buy this hex or get it almost totally free, then sacrifice a whole bunch of it, and now they're going to make even more money? Like, this just gets worse and worse the more you look at it. Right? Derek says, so you're just giving them money to make a statement? I know, and that, what's up, Ryan? Nice to see you. Mario, what's up? Raphael says this guy don't have any good argument. Wait, which guy? I know no one, of course nobody had to sacrifice, but the fact is over $1 billion was raised for PulseX and PulseChain. Now let's put that in perspective. Let's look at a company here, Google. It's one of the most valuable companies in the world. They've made an incredible amount of services because PulseChain is basically a startup at this point. And I think it's perfectly ethical to raise money for a startup. That's perfectly ethical. But let's look at, let's put this in context. So Google Inc. was officially launched in 1998. Because, all right, so the context here is that PulseChain has goals. It does not have a real product that's actually working. It has goals. This makes it a startup company. This means it is a security that has almost no real-world value. It is all theoretical future value. It is not doing anything that's actually useful for all these people on this planet today. It is a startup company. At best, if you're going to label it that way. So Google was launched in 1998 after they developed a search engine algorithm known as Backrub. In 1996, the initial public offering was in 2004. That's 8 years after they started working on it. That's 6 years after it was officially launched. Now, let's look at how much money did they actually get. How much money did people actually put into Google? So if you look at it, the first funding of Google was secured in 1998 for $100,000. That to me is about what PulseChain is really worth, and PulseX, $100,000. You got a startup with an idea that has promise. That seems like an accurate amount of money. If we all are God, but if I was the overruling God of the Bible and I distributed the money in this current system we have, I would give the whole Pulse team, here's $100,000. Good job, guys. Let's see if you can build something. This is what Google got. After 2 years of working on a project that was becoming one of the best search engines in the world, Google got $100,000. A year later, they got around to equity funding for $25 million. Now think about that. They had been operating 3 years. They had a product that was actually very valuable, and they got $25 million invested. And then they hired a CEO. And they actually tried to sell it and could not sell it for $1 million. Then Google has a public offering that raised $1.6 billion. Now, by the time Google had a public offering, this is a very valuable company. The sale raised $1.67 billion and brought the market cap up to $23 billion. But that means people actually bought about, from my understanding of this, $1.6 billion. So you're telling me that an idea, a startup with no actual working product, more than a test net, I can't go make real transactions that actually count on PulseChain or PulseX today. You're telling me this is worth over $1 billion? And you compare that to Google? And people bought $1.67 billion of Google after it had been up for 8 years? After it had been a company for 6 years? After it had a massive amount of value? I mean, it's crazy. And this is why you've got regulatory agencies like the SEC that want to stop this kind of thing, because what are people getting? Is this the next EOS where 5 years from now, the value, if this goes like EOS, 5 years from now, PulseChain and PulseX are going to have a lower value than what was sacrificed. If it goes on a similar trajectory, and it may not, I'd say 98% chance this fails. And by fails, meaning that any more than a temporary pump here or pump there, over the next 5 years, the value of PulseChain and PulseX is likely to be lower than was sacrificed, as it comes down to more of what its true value is and not its speculative value. And what's further destructive about PulseChain and PulseX is I think PulseChain and PulseX are in a good position to kill Hex on Ethereum. And these also add a significant amount of confusion. Now, if you're using PulseX, you've got this P Ethereum, and you've basically copied the whole blockchain. That collectively adds a lot of it. It adds more confusion. So you're wondering, and I see on I see on YouTube that you take your chances with 2%. See, that's the thing, though. You're thinking about, all right, I'm going to take... You probably already have some Hex. You're probably already invested. So what I've noticed, once I buy into something, a self-interest bias kicks in. And I don't have any Hex. And I don't have any I didn't sacrifice. So there's no self-interest bias for me. I can look at this from an outsider and say, you know what? This doesn't look so good. Whereas once you buy into the system, you've got a self-interest bias where you want it to succeed because your own personal profits are tied up with the success of this. Once I bought Dash, now I want Dash to succeed, and I've actually put my blinders on so that I don't see any information that stops me from thinking Dash is going to succeed. And I did the same thing with Steam, and this is what we really need to think about. Are these two Hex, PulseChain, PulseX, are these adding value to the 8 billion people on the world? Or are these, at best, doing nothing? Or worst, are these distracting from the value that's there for the 8 billion people in the world? Imagine if instead of all this money that's in Hex, right now it says, where's the market cap? Hex is a $20 billion market cap. And there's $1 billion sacrificed in this, and there was hundreds of millions more in the PulseChain. Imagine if that value had went into Bitcoin instead. I've only got a few thousand in Bitcoin. Like, it's not enough to trigger my self-interest. And when I did a whole bunch of research, on cryptos for a long time. And when I ask the question, well, where can I make a profit? I get a lot different answers than I ask, well, which crypto, if I invest in it, will it actually make the most positive difference for the world? Imagine if that $20 billion had been put into Bitcoin instead of Hex. Imagine if that $1 billion sacrificed. All the people who put into Hex that are now everyone who's stuck in a stake, they don't have any more liquid Hex. They have to pay a penalty to get it out. All the people who are holding Hex, and to me it doesn't look good for the long-term price of it. You're probably going to lose compared to Bitcoin. All the people who sacrificed for PulseChain and PulseX have nothing right now, except maybe you'll get an airdrop in the future. What if all that had went into Bitcoin? Bitcoin is inherently fair. There's no founder. It has been around for 13 plus years. And I researched before having any self-interest in making a profit in Bitcoin, because at the time, I had got into this altcoin pump mindset where I want these altcoins to pump so I can make money. I want to buy into an altcoin, help it pump, and then I make a profit. That's selfish and self-centered thinking. When I thought, well, what could I buy that would most help the other people in the world? What gives other people in the world the best chance for an abundant financial future? It's Bitcoin. It's clearly Bitcoin. I'll do a video about Ethereum and some of these other ones. It's easily Bitcoin, which is why it has the largest market cap. If you take your money out of Hex and PulseChain and put it into Bitcoin, that helps people because Bitcoin has a very small rate of inflation, and Bitcoin, you can just hold it, and the odds of it going up in price are way, way, way higher. You've got governments that have already made Bitcoin legal tender. Bitcoin has a very promising future, and most all these cryptocurrencies are distracting from Bitcoin. And not only that, but a bunch of these cryptocurrencies are making a bad name for the market as a whole. And when Bill Gates says something like crypto's a scam, and then you see a page like this, you know, these are taking away the value of the entire market. Because I talked to a guy last night, he's like, oh, I heard Bill Gates said crypto's a scam. No, the majority of cryptos could easily fall into that category, where they've promised all this value, they have a much bigger market cap than they're actually worth. Bitcoin does not operate like that. You could certainly say that in the beginning, but Bitcoin's 13 years old, and I realize I could be wrong about this. I've made a lot of crypto videos I was wrong about, and most of them were saying how great an altcoin would do in the future. Almost every time I've been wrong was looking at an altcoin and saying, this is gonna be awesome. Almost every time I've been wrong, I said, this altcoin is going to do awesome. And almost all the altcoins do a little more than suck value out of the one currency that can most help the rest of the world. And you look at PulseChain's goals, I mean, there's other blockchains that already do this. And this remove pollution is... Should we stop drying our clothes in clothes dryers? Because they use up as much energy collectively. Clothes dryers use as much energy as Bitcoin does. Should we stop drying our clothes because of the energy they use? No, it's ridiculous. So I think we've covered this in detail. I see that PulseX is deflationary. However, that doesn't it doesn't change the whole system it's based on has a weak foundation, and it's been way overvalued, which to me leads to disappointment. Now, yes, deflation is good. However, look at how the unfair launch of this. Look at where it's going to be distributed. Look at who's going to... This is concentrated wealth right here. If you're struggling from paycheck to paycheck, this is exactly what your problem is. Concentrated wealth. All right, it's time to pick my daughter up, my friends. Benjamin, Curtis, Dean, thanks for being here. I've talked about... MT Coiner says, I got my hex on day one. Well, that makes sense that you would feel that way about it because you've now your own interest in your own profits and what it's done for you. It can make it difficult to consider the bigger picture and all the other people that have not made millions of dollars off of it. And to consider all the people who've put in and lost money compared to what they put in. You've made millions of dollars in hex because other people have lost money on it. That what they've put in is less than what they have today. You've made millions because other people have lost millions on it. All right, my friends, I'm going to go pick my daughter up. It is MT Corner. The remove pollution is mostly a marketing tactic. It is. All right, thanks for watching this, my friends. If you enjoyed this, I'll keep doing some more of these. Appreciate your feedback. Love you. You're awesome. I'll see you later.